Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Agents of MACE. Today is a supersized extra episode extravaganza because last week Titania broke into our studios and wrecked everything, and we had to fix it all. Thanks a lot, Titania. So this week we're doing episode 6 and episode 7, and also we got a little bit of news. So do you guys want to talk about news first?
Yeah, let's go for it.
So, for all of you Marvel fans, Deadpool fans, X-Men fans, Wolverine fans, general fans of Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman's friendship, it's back. Ryan Reynolds posted a video, or actually, I guess a series of videos, to his social media accounts where he explained that he was having trouble kind of figuring out the idea for Deadpool 3. We get to see him in his... I'm going to go ahead and say his, like, X-Force uniform. I know that in the movie it was, like, his uniform got, like, covered in soot and ash, and that's how we got, like, the X-Force Deadpool. But the uniform that he's wearing doesn't look quite like that uniform. It looks more like a X-Force Deadpool uniform, so... that may be interesting. But we see him in that uniform as he's like trying to come up with ideas. And then at one point he's sitting on the couch talking to the camera. And who walks by in the background but Hugh Jackman? And then he joins him on the couch. And then there is a part two, or as it's called, part Hugh, where he and Hugh Jackman are sitting on the couch explaining that they'll be in the movie together and then describing the movie, all while a soundtrack is being played over, so you can't hear any of the exciting details. Although you can lip read, and it doesn't seem to give anything away. They're just talking about fighting each other and how amazing it is. But yeah, so it has been officially announced that Hugh Jackman is going to return as Wolverine in Deadpool 3, and that they're not retconning anything. Wolverine is still, I'll air quote this, dead. But this is going to happen before the events of Logan, which take place in 2029. So still got a couple years before we start seeing crazy self-driving shipping crates on the highway. So
I guess a question could be is like, are we going to see like essentially an old man Logan version with Deadpool? Like that's...
It is a thought, because if it's 2029 and we're supposed to assume that this is taking place in 2021, 2, 3-ish time frame, then yeah, we would assume that Logan is older and not a young Logan.
And will we see Professor X?
I mean, he's not dead technically if we're talking about this timeline, and we've talked about before, you know, who's going to play Professor X for the new X-Men series. Is it going to be somebody new, or will it be like maybe Professor X is dead in this world, and so this will be the Jean Grey school, Hank McCoy school? I don't know. So
who knows?
There could be potential answers in Deadpool 3,
possibly,
as far as what's happening with mutants.
There is a video out there where someone, like a professional lip reader, translated everything. I have not watched it yet, but I'm going to try to watch that this evening.
Yeah, I'll have to check that out. I was trying my best, and all I could really take away were...
There is a video out there, and I think you can like basically watch everything, and it's going to be subtitled with what they're saying.
Oh, man. A professional lip reader. Well, that's the exciting news for the MCU. But for current MCU, we will jump back a week and join Just Jen as she attends a wedding and potentially no She-Hulk. But very quickly we get She-Hulk. So I enjoyed last week's episode. I thought that it was fun. I felt like nothing happened to progress Jen's story as She-Hulk, especially with like this week's episode. Just seemed so much more like character story, whereas last week just kind of felt like a fun, goofy thing that happened. We did get more Titania. We did get to see Titania use her super strength. But other than that, well, I guess, and technically, the episode sort of ends with Jen meeting a guy, which plays into the current episode. So, I guess first thoughts for last week were, it was fine.
It's just Jen.
Yeah, and I don't have anything against Jen. I'm not saying I like She-Hulk better than Jen, but I'm also saying I like She-Hulk's story a little bit better than Jen, so I wanted a little bit more She-Hulk.
Yeah. It's like, I mean, they might as well should have just flat out said, like, you're going to get Daredevil, like, at the very last scene. But they might as well just say that, because we kind of know that's what's going to happen.
I enjoyed this standalone wedding episode. I mean, to me, one of the fun things that we see on sitcoms is when they leave the standard setting and go do something else, something weird, funny, different. And that's exactly what happens here. She is like, from the top, she's like, yes, we're doing a wedding on a Thursday in the middle of the week because my friend is crazy. And yeah, it was just kind of a lot of fun. We got to see finally a fight between Jen and Titania, like besides the courtroom one, obviously. Despite it being super tacky to fight at somebody else's wedding. And I guess I'm wondering where the rest of the season is going to go with Titania, with her new boy that I was initially really happy about and then immediately suspicious of after the tag of the episode. So, yeah, I mean, I was unbothered. I enjoyed it.
I think it had its moments. I think, you know, obviously the comic book fan that I am, I was more excited about the Titania She-Hulk fight at the wedding. And I thought it was funny that, like, they played into, like, she broke her veneers. So she had, like, jacked up teeth and had to get, you know, I'm really enjoying the court drawings at the end of every episode. I think that's probably one of my favorite parts of this series. And so to get to see her, like, at the dentist getting her teeth fixed, I thought that was like a funny touch. And then this like overarching sort of like love story that we're like trying to build for Jen, like her coming to terms with the fact that people like She-Hulk but don't like Jen, and not don't like Jen, it's just people like She-Hulk more. I appreciate that because it's like it gives some like humanity to this comic book character. I think that they're like leaning really heavy on her trying to find romance. And it's like a weird line where it's like I like the fact that we're humanizing a comic book character and making them relatable, but I don't like that it feels like every episode has to be like centered around her finding a boyfriend. Like realistically, I guess the last like 3 episodes have been about her trying to find a boyfriend. And it's like, I mean, cool, but like I want to see the lawyer part is the fun part for me. Like when they did the whole the thing with like the guy and he was suing the Megan Thee Stallion who was like a light elf. I thought that was great. I really enjoyed that. And I wanted more law show in this law show, but instead I feel like we're getting more like romantic comedy, but also like romantic dark comedy because everybody ends up leaving her.
I can't help but think that it's kind of like fun and a change of pace because the MCU has been a little bit romancophobic up until this point. Like they haven't really spent a lot of time on any of their main characters' like personal or romantic relationships. They all kind of happen like off screen, and they'll pop up and be like, "Oh, we have a kid now, great." So to me, this is just fun that they are returning to this whole. It is a very like rom-com kind of plot where Jen's like trying to navigate the world as a woman and her career, and also try to find love and happiness. And yeah, so it's fun. It's different. It's sprinkles on top of this ice cream sundae, which is a law show.
I agree. I just want more law. I didn't think that the law part would be my favorite part of She-Hulk, but it is slowly becoming my favorite part of She-Hulk.
Well, it's and like,
What do you mean?
and it's like I mentioned that from episode 1. It's so difficult because like Better Call Saul just ended, and that's like one of the best shows ever about a lawyer, and it's just like hoping this would fill that void that's in my heart now, and it's like not quite. I agree. It's like I need more of the law elements.
Yeah, and even, I mean, I'm stepping a little bit into the next episode, but there's a character in the next episode that in the comics shows up at a trial that She-Hulk is dealing with, and there's a whole fight that breaks out of this trial, and I was like, oh, that's great. Like, where's that? Bring me more She-Hulk lawyer, super law, super court, whatever you want to call it. Like, I think that's I feel like that's what they led me to believe this show is going to be. It was going to be less comic booky, more law show meets comic book. And I feel like we're getting more comic book meets romance with the occasional mention of the fact that she's a lawyer.
Yeah. Because so much of the beginning was just like, this is who I am. I'm a lawyer. I have this great job, and it's just like trying to make everything work. And then this happens, and I lose everything. And what am I going to do? I have student loans. I need to find work. And it's just like all that stuff kind of happens within 5 minutes. And at this point, it's just kind of like, okay, I guess.
Yeah. It's like, oh, remember she's a lawyer? We get to see her like working in her office, but we don't know what she's like. Is she working on a cool case? Or
But it's like I would want more of this more Spider-Man-esque element in terms of like focusing more around the job, and everything else is just kind of getting in the way, stopping, certain things in the job from working out. I don't know. Give us more of that.
Yeah, exactly. I guess the little bit of law that we do get in this episode is like a little side story about a guy who can't die and all of the women that he's with. I will say, like, that's what I want more of, and I felt like we didn't get enough of that story because I felt like that was like a wild story. And it's just fun to see that like there are these people out there in the world that just like have powers. Like this guy just has the ability to not die. He's invulnerable. And no one is surprised. No one is talking about it. No one is like, who is this guy? They're just like, oh no, he's just this guy.
And he's super annoying.
Yeah.
He is also an actor on Star Wars. It's hard for me to get past that because it's just like it's the same role basically.
Yeah.
Like in terms of it, like his presence and the way he talks and the way he goes about things, it's like the exact same thing in Book of Boba Fett, and it's just kind of like hard to like get around that. It's just like let's copy and paste.
Yeah, typecast.
But it is getting weird because mutants are here. Let's just say it. Mutants are here. People are aware of it. No one seems to really care. But it's weird because you look at a high level, MCU is only saying, well, there's only 2 mutants, but they're also saying like, but we're going to introduce mutants, but not really. But yes, it's like it's so weird.
Right. We're not going to explain who they are. They're not like key characters. They're just, I'm sure you could tie them loosely to some character in the comics, but like they're not using names.
The mutants are not the sprinkles on top of this. They're like the casting sugar. Like they're even smaller.
Yeah.
Less scattered. They're kind of barely there.
Yeah.
But speaking of actors who are randomly in this episode, this is one that I got to watch for the first time with Mason. And whenever it showed the bride at the wedding, he just yelled, "Yes!" And I was like, what? And it's because this is an actress named, I think it's Patty Harrison. But she's from one of his favorite skit shows that's on Netflix. It's called I Think You Should Leave. And he adores her every time she's on screen. And she always is this kind of like over the top, borderline crazy woman that she plays in this episode. And so I did think that she was great here, even though like she would be an absolute nightmare in real life.
Well, that's cool. I like that. I guess we're metaing a little bit for the MCU, but Seraphin Casting does like all the casting for the MCU and for basically for Disney. She does all the Disney stuff. And she has like an amazing talent for finding people that either are unknowns or are in things, but maybe not things that are like mainstream or things that everyone's heard of, and pulling these talents in. And every time it's a hit. Like, every time. It's amazing. So,
yeah.
Shout out to you, Seraphin Casting, for your awesome work on all of these shows. Especially because it's like they just keep coming out with new shows. I will say, before we get too far away from it, the QR code for this episode, when the Invincible Man jumps out of the building and lands on the police car, the QR code is at the bottom of the... I guess the security car, but the QR code is at the bottom of the security van, like right in the middle. So if you're looking for a new free comic, there you go. I am getting a little irked that we're getting into this trend of no more post-credit scenes.
Yeah.
They're always preceded by scenes that seemed like they were probably at some point a post-credit scene.
Yes, yes, and I would much rather them just throw it on the post at the end of the make it a post-credit scene. Why are you showing it to me before the credits? If it's supposed to be a post-credit scene, just put it as a post-credit scene, and I'll be happy. But you show it to me before the credits, then I feel gypped like I didn't get a post-credit scene.
They could have at least gotten something with the dog from the wedding.
Yes. Anything.
They just show up with the dog and then nothing. We don't get to see the dog walk down the aisle. I feel like I did not get what I needed from that aspect of the show. I had a perfect opportunity. Yeah. Just a gag shot of her walking the dog down the aisle.
Exactly. I'm fine. That's what they've been so far. All the post-credit scenes that we have gotten have just been little jokes. I'm fine with it. Why'd you stop? It was perfectly acceptable. Now I'm nervous that like next week we're not going to get a free comic book. Because, they said...
You have to get one or the other.
They said that they were going to do it for all the episodes, and then here we are, we're not getting them. So it's like, what happened? It seems like an easy fix. I guess that's kind of it for last week's episode. I don't really have anything else. If there's anything else that we missed you guys want to just talk about?
This will kind of go... everything's gonna sorry, we're just all over the place. We get like the intelligentsia.
Oh yeah,
we're gonna say that. So that was kind of interesting, and it's it's also the first indication of Hulk King. So we get this little emoji of like this, essentially like the Hulk's face with the crown on top. So. We do get this moment of like, what's going on? Who is this person? This, is this person Hulk King or someone else? Like, it's trying to figure out like who's really the mastermind behind whatever's going on.
Well, and this is something we kind of talked about, I guess 2 weeks ago, of like this supervillain organization kind of led by the leader. Or I guess led by MODOK, but the leader's part of it. And we talked about the leader has been, they've already said that, yes, he's going to be in the MCU again. It's going to be the same actor. So I am just kind of assuming that Hulk King is the leader, and that's his, whatever, his like hide behind moniker that he's using. And that the intelligentsia is something that maybe we won't get in a physical form necessarily in She-Hulk, but it may be kind of like a building up to that's going to be the villain for the series, maybe like the big bad for the MCU series. So interesting.
Yeah, it is. Like, just from Nikki and Mallory, like, working on the website, like, they can't even, like, really. It's interesting, like, how it kind of mimics modern days. Like, they're forced to make an account, so I'm just, it's just kind of data collecting. Like, what are they using that data for? Trending channels, She-Hulk's like number one.
Right.
Which the rest of them are kind of, I wish they were a little bit more meaningful. It's just like images, heroes, movies, and memes. Like, okay.
Right.
All right. Like, there could have been other nods there that could have been fun, but
I feel like we're getting that a little bit more and more with this series. Just like places where you think there would be a nod to something, but there isn't. And you're like, oh, that seems like a missed opportunity.
Yeah.
But
so it's interesting. Like, it's kind of like, how is all this going to tie together? Like, this whole cancel culture, just the obsession of, like, how did Jennifer become a Hulk? And it's like, how are we using media to get the everyday people against, it's very fascinating to see where all this could go if we're going to see any more of it. But
well, speaking about more of it, let's get into this week's episode. So this week's episode, The Retreat, we finally get some more Emil Blonsky. We start the episode kind of following the previous episode. Jen is going on a couple dates with the guy that she met at the wedding, and then they sleep together, and then he ghosts her. And that's where the episode starts, things start happening, because then she's basically just staring at her phone, waiting to try to see if this guy's going to text her back. She gets a call from Blonsky's parole officer who says there's something wrong with his power inhibitor, and so they have to go to his retreat, his weird, creepy, cult-like retreat. That turns out to be a little less creepy than they made it seem like it was going to be. Also, like, all of his followers are not there, so I don't know what happened with that. But
yeah, I feel like this place is a lot creepier than we're probably seeing.
Oh,
but
yeah, I mean,
knows?
he definitely turned into Abomination. Like, that's 100% why his inhibitors messed up.
Yeah.
But I'm excited because we get a lot of fun references that, like, don't necessarily have anything to do with She-Hulk directly, but, like, are just what they should be doing, just fun references to things that, like, don't necessarily need their own movie or their own spin-off series or something, but just a fun character to throw in there to nod to the comics. So we'll get into those characters when we get there, though. So basically, she ends up stuck at the retreat. She doesn't have Wi-Fi, so she can't check her phone. Finally, she decides she's just going to forget this guy that ghosted her, and that's kind of the end of the episode. And then there's a post-credit scene, or a pre-credit scene, I guess we'll call them now, that kind of shows what actually happened with that guy. So we'll get into that in a little bit. I don't really have anything for the beginning of this episode. I was just ready for them to get to Abomination and show me the retreat. So if there's anything you guys want to talk about for the very beginning of this episode, go for it. But I mean, it's pretty much exactly what I said. She just goes on dates with this guy and then brings him in and sleeps with him, and then wakes up and he's gone, and then has a crisis.
If any of our listeners have ever been ghosted, it doesn't feel good, does it? It was hard to watch. It happened to Jen after everything seemed so happy with Josh, who seemed nice, until it made it very clear at the end of the last episode that he was part of the creepy group that wants to kill her. And so I just felt very, very bad watching the whole thing, because it seems like it could be great, and then he makes her feel bad, and then he also does want to kill her.
Right. So hopefully, I mean, we'll get some like retribution by the end of the season. She'll find him and beat him up, and we'll all cheer. and it'll
Also,
be great.
I wonder how this worked amongst them. Were they just like, okay, which one of us is the hottest? Josh, we will deploy you.
Maybe, or was it like raise your hand, draw straws?
Like, who wants to? And they're like, oh no, she's disgusting. Except Josh is like, I'll take one for the team.
Yeah, maybe
Horrible.
Josh is a good guy in
horrible.
disguise. We don't know. Probably not though. Seems pretty bad.
Gonna bet no.
Yeah.
No.
There was definitely creepy behavior in the tag for this episode.
Oh yeah, very very creepy.
For sure. Yeah.
So, I also have a question, but I'll talk about it when we get there. So, jump into the retreat, because this is the fun part of the episode. She gets to the retreat. It's huge, first of all.
Who's funding it?
Yeah. Wong, maybe? I don't
Maybe
know.
all of his soulmates are like ladies who divorced millionaires. And so they're bringing all that good gold digger money.
It is weird that we don't see them
Yeah.
anywhere. I don't know what happened to them.
They're in the kitchen.
Maybe.
Well, we'll get to a certain character and then.
So Jen gets stuck there because Manbull and El Aguila, I don't know.
Whenever I looked it up, it said El Aguila?
Yeah, that's how it's spelled.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. But it sounded different in the episode. You guys
yeah.
were right.
But they are fighting, and Manbull destroys the front of Jen's car, and so she gets stranded. Emil basically says, he says a bunch of nonsense in this episode. I also wanted to point out that we see posters all over the place where he's quoted himself. My favorite being, "Today is today."
Is today.
That's a great quote from Emil Blonsky. But he basically says sometimes if something bad happens, it just means life is trying to teach you something. So he's basically saying like, hey, why don't you hang out? We quickly learn that his retreat is sort of like a spiritual retreat for supervillains, where they can work through their issues. And we get to see, five. We have Saracen, Porcupine, Manbull, El Aguila, and the Wrecker, who shows up a little bit into her time here. I thought that it was super fun because all of these characters are from like different random MCU heroes. Saracen, who is not a vampire in the comics, but it was fun that they made him think that he's a vampire in this. He's actually a Punisher villain, and he also appears as a Royal Avenger in the Exiles series, which is in a different part of the multiverse. So unrelated, but technically the same character.
What I found which was kind of interesting, that goes into more of the werewolf stuff, is the episode credits Bart Sears for this incarnation of Saracen, which means the primary inspiration is a villain introduced in 1999's Blade the Vampire Hunter issue #1.
Oh,
crazy. Saracen was presented as one of the oldest vampires.
Interesting.
So it's possible. That's what I'm wondering. It's possible, that's why I was wanting to get to Saracen, because what if he just turned all of the followers into vampires? What if all the ladies are vampires right now? Because he could be a vampire. It's possible. But it's also it's hard to know. It's almost like getting it. We'll definitely dive more into what's going to happen to Josh, but I almost kind of want Saracen to show up and just drink.
I really want to see. We get to see El Aguila's power, sort of. Manbull is just Manbull, so we kind of see his power, but we don't get to see Porcupine do anything. And after doing a little research, Porcupine's kind of cool. So he's an Ant-Man villain, mainly. He shoots quills and other gadgets out of quill-like launchers attached to his suit. He is also 3 different people. I guess the original was Alexander Gentry, who the Avengers respected so much as a villain that when he died, they hung his suit in the Hall of Heroes.
Oh, wow.
So weird. Then there's a moment. This is the character that shows up in a courtroom case between the Tinkerer and the Thinker, I believe. There is a fight that breaks out, but at one point, Porcupine comes up as a witness, and She-Hulk says, "Hey, you're supposed to be dead," and he says, "You're right," and then he lays on the floor. So I don't know what's going on there. But the second is Roger Cocking. Roger Gocking. Yeah. He is the second iteration. It's still a guy in a suit. I don't know the storyline. I don't know why they decided to bring Porcupine back. The third one is actually a mutant named Billy Bates, and we do see this mutant in the third X-Men film, The Last Stand. It's a homage, if you will, to this character. But I thought that was interesting that Porcupine is potentially 3 different people, and I don't know who we got. Because he never says his name, right? He just says Porcupine. So
it's Porcupine. Yeah. He's a porcupine.
So Manbull is a Daredevil villain.
Yeah.
So that kind of makes some sense, like why they would use him.
It's also funny because he teams up with Matador, which that's like the whole joke in this episode is that.
Yeah. I know, yeah, it's just it's like the constant joke of like they're a couple, you need to separate.
And then El Aguila is a Power Man and Iron Fist villain. It says that he has mutant powers. I didn't see anywhere that said like how he got them or how he uses them, but he can shoot bioelectricity, and he's also really good with the saber. Those are his 2 listed abilities.
Yeah. So a question could be, because we do see him momentarily like use these powers. Like I wonder if he's the reason the inhibitor failed for like some kind of electric shock, or did he actually turn into Abomination?
I also want to know, are we being tricked? Is Jen being tricked?
100%.
Is this isn't just a group that's like working through their problems. Instead, it's like this gathering of supervillains.
I'm getting like a very Primal Fear vibe from this. So if you've never seen, it's a Richard Gere movie called Primal Fear with Edward Norton. I mean, it's essentially like a trickster. It's like one of the few movies where like the villain gets away with things, and I get that vibe here. Like it just feels like he's just putting on a show, but he's got some plans and he's kind of building his little posse, and they're gonna do something.
Right, but he's getting all these like C-level villains that aren't the smartest.
Yeah.
Speaking of, we get the Wrecker again. Talked about him and his crew a couple weeks ago, but where's the rest of them? Where'd they go? They didn't want to come work on their problems?
They're not ready to confront that. I do love the part where she's like, that guy, did they previously on him?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That was probably
at first, I was like, "Oh, it's the magician," but no, it was the other guy.
That was probably my favorite fourth wall break that we've had so far. I thought that was really fun. But yeah, it's interesting that he's here. He doesn't have his crowbar, so I don't know if maybe it's just there in his locker or something, or
he mentions it. You know, it's kind of like in like their little round table. You know, he kind of makes a nod to it, like I don't need the crowbar,
Mm-hmm.
you know, just something like that. So, but it's like it's got to be there.
Yeah.
Like,
They stash it somewhere.
it's got yeah. I mean, they probably all have like their own rooms or something, but yeah, just yeah, their own yurts.
Hurting for a yurtin.
Hurting for a yurtin.
Gosh.
I really want to watch the next, like, what do we have, 2 episodes left? 1 episode left. No, 2. Is it
Wait,
9?
2,
It's
yeah.
not. Yeah, that's what's so crazy. It's just hard to believe. Like we're on episode 7. There's only 2 more left, and it's still
Yes.
kind of where is this going?
Yes, it's in not in a good way, because now we're to the point where, like, you've shown us there's this villain organization. You've shown us that they're trying to get her blood. The tag for this episode is them getting her blood, and we only have 2 episodes for you to explain how she gets it back, what their plan is with the blood, whose plan is with the blood, how many people are involved. There's so many questions, and I'm nervous that they'll start to answer them next episode, and then they'll try to cram everything into the last episode. And
it's almost, you know, especially with now this new villain code name Hulk King. I mean, my mind's going like, and I was reading something earlier. It's like, is this more focused around mutants? Is it like, could Jen is She-Hulk, but could they be pivoting She-Hulk to be more like a mutant versus like Hulk? You know, so it's like, I'm going with they're trying to get the blood to try to learn it and then use it to create more Hulk-like beings. But the question is like, will there be more Hulks, or will there be just different mutations? And are they doing anything with Abomination's blood?
right.
Are they trying to fuse them? Are they? Yeah.
Maybe that's how we get Red Hulk. Thunderbolts
Yeah.
coming, and I don't know. There's too much. There's too much unanswered right now. But as we mentioned, the tag for this episode is rewinding in time to when she slept with the guy. He gets up in the middle of the night, takes a picture of her. Well, first copies her phone to his phone, then takes a picture of her in the bed and has some emojis of blood, Hulk, and something else. I don't remember. But
A syringe. I think.
yeah, basically showing that he got her blood. Here's my question. If you were asleep and somebody jabbed you with a syringe and sucked out some of your blood, you're telling me you're not going to wake up? Because she couldn't do it he couldn't do it while she was Hulk.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
that's a little hard for me to buy.
It's difficult to buy. I agree.
Because that's a big needle.
Maybe he roofied her.
Yeah, maybe.
They'd been together all night. He might have slipped her a sedative.
True.
Yeah, and that's a good point, especially learning like if Jen is She-Hulk, like nothing's gonna phase She-Hulk, right? She can't get drunk, like, you know, so kind of needs to focus more on Jen. Because it's interesting, like there's the limitations, like right, like it's like night and day. Like you would think, like Jen being She-Hulk, like she'd just be like super strong all the time. Like,
right.
You know, none of this is really gonna matter, but they kind of separated that, which is interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel it's the first time we're seeing villains be smart.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I guess
I don't know.
We'll wait for next week and hope that they answer some of the above questions.
I need to know. I need to know. Like, it's gonna kill me because I'm like, who is? It's like, is this? Is it the leader? Like, are we actually gonna see the leader? Is he the mastermind behind all this? And it kind of makes sense. Like, if he's already Hulk-like, you know, he's trying to become. He wants to be more like She-Hulk or more like Abomination.
Well, and he would know that the blood is what gives him his power. So if he gets more of it, he could get more power. I mean, I don't know.
That's kind of the vibe I'm getting. It's like, because that was like Abomination's thing.
Mm-hmm.
He wants to be the most powerful fighter being there is.
Mm-hmm.
And he was just obsessed with how much power the Hulk had.
Right.
So it's hard to see like how he's gone from that to like, I'm Zen. I just want world peace. Like I'm not buying it. I think it's a show. I think he's
the whole thing with him and Wong is the only thing that gives me pause and makes me hope that it's not Abomination that's in charge, because I just feel like that is too predictable, and I would rather it be the leader or somebody else. Like what, like crazy turn? What if they like introduce MODOK? It's MODOK. He's trying to get it for AIM.
That would be
or something.
wild.
Like there's so many things that they could do that I think would be more exciting as a viewer than just being like, oh, it was Emil all along. It's like, I mean, we could have.
But then it's like you've still got Titania, who's created by Doctor Doom, and it's like, are you going to show me Doctor Doom, or like what's going on there?
Yeah,
there's so much. We need two episodes with Daredevil. Like, give us more.
We might get 2 episodes with Daredevil.
It's like they need to pull a Book of Boba Fett where like the last 2 are getting Mando. You know, it's like switch it so it's more like it's Daredevil show.
I'll stop watching if Luke shows up.
Excuse me.
No more.
You'll stop watching if who shows up?
If Luke shows up. No more Skywalkers in my Star Wars. So yeah, that oh, I forgot to talk about the QR code. QR code for this episode, if you are looking for a free comic book, is when she's on the date and they're at the food truck, it is hidden on the food truck, kind of where the chips are hanging on the food truck. So if you want your free comic, go check it out. This is one that was hidden pretty well. I feel like the other ones have been kind of more in your face. So that's where to look for it. Get your free comic. 2 free comics if you didn't get last week's. So speaking of free things, we're doing another giveaway. We are, I guess, theming it with this week's episode. I feel like that worked out a little bit with Saracen being a vampire. So we are giving away the Marvel Collector Core Marvel Collector Core exclusive Zombie Morbius pop. Check out our social media. There will be a photo there along with the rules for the giveaway. This week we're doing something a little bit different. It is a riddle. So I'm going to go ahead and give you the riddle, and you will have until next Friday to answer the riddle on our social media. You can send it to us on Facebook or on Instagram or wherever you follow us on social media. And then we will randomly pick a winner and announce it. Well, we'll have to announce it on social media because we'll have already recorded the episode for next week. But that's fine. Check social media. That's where you'll find out the rules and the winner next week. Time for the riddle. The riddle is, what started blue, yellow, and green was then blue, yellow, and white, was then black, yellow, and black. Solve the riddle, win the prize. Post your answers on our social media, and we will announce next week the winner along with the answer to the riddle if you are just curious. So join us next week for all of that goodness and potential answers from She-Hulk. Yeah, fingers crossed. If not, then I don't know what we're going to do. So, but yeah, that does it for this week. Question. Do we have a question? I guess the riddle will be the question, but
I mean, the riddle will be the question, but I mean, I think the biggest question is, who do you think is Hulk King?
Gasp. Send us your answers.
Could be someone else entirely.
Yeah. You could give us a wild answer. Could be Spider-Man. I don't know. Maybe he shows up.
Could be Kingpin.
Oh, I mean, that's a glaringly obvious one, but so yeah, send us your answers on social media, and we will give our answers at the beginning of next week's episode. So see you guys then.
And remember, today is today.